Invasion of the Body Snatchers is the film that I'll be reviewing to close out the 50s on ScaryMania 4. The original Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a movie that I don't really hear talked about quite a lot, but it is a movie that I actually watched for the first time because I had always heard good things and wanted to check it out for myself. And yeah, the movie was just as good as I had heard everyone say that it is. But before I dive into my thoughts, I want to pass it along to someone who I have not had on the channel for a while now, but I'm always glad to have him on, and I'm glad to have him back now. This is not going to be the first time you see him on here. Brevon from Brevon's Flicks and Games. Brevon, take it away.
Yours truly, Brevon Thompson, is back, and I want to give a big thank you to Ryan for inviting me on his channel to talk about Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1956. I haven't watched this film until I watched it in preparation for this review, nor have I watched the 1978 remake, which I hear is just as good as the original, so that's definitely very promising. So the film takes place in Santa Mira, California. Dr. Miles Bennell, his ex Becky, as well as their friends Jack and Theodora, discovered that there might be something strange going on in the town. The residents are completely emotionless. They discover that these giant seed-like pods are growing duplicates of the town's residents. So they must figure out what the hell is going on and put a stop to this. I heard a lot about Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but for some reason I never felt compelled to watch it. Both the original and the 78 version, until Ryan told me that he was reviewing the original film for ScaryMania this year, and I asked if I could collaborate with him on this film, and he said yes. So seeing this for the first time, I was genuinely impressed by how much of it holds up for the most part. The performances are good for the most part when it comes to Kevin McCarthy, Dana Winter, King Donovan, and Carolyn Jones as Miles, Becky, Jack, and Theodora. R.I.P. They were fantastic in this film. In terms of the alien invasion concept for this film, having humans be replaced by pod people, I think is a pretty interesting concept. And after watching this for the first time, right now I am compelled to watch the 78 remake, and more than likely in the future, sometime on my channel, I'll more than likely do a comparison on if I liked the original or the remake better, but for what it's worth, I'm definitely excited. So if you like classic sci-fi horror films from the 50s, I would definitely say give this a watch. I was very impressed with this, and thank you, Ryan, for recommending me watching this, and I really can't wait to collaborate with you again soon. And guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Looking forward to doing more videos really soon on either Ryan's channel or my channel, Brevon's Flicks and Games. And if you want my thoughts on old or new films, of course, you know where to find me.
Brevon's channel is going to be linked in the description. Go give him a subscribe over there. But the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a movie, like I said, I feel like it gets swept under the rug a little bit. It's a very short movie. I believe it's only 80-ish minutes long, but man, it crams a lot of tension into a short amount of time. The basic story is that it takes place in a fictional small town in California, and the locals start discovering that some of their neighbors are acting weird. And, well, basically that's because they are. They have been assimilated by an alien race that is born out of these pods that are seen pretty much everywhere in this town. The assimilation happens when these people begin to fall asleep. And once they fall asleep, they stop becoming human and they reawaken as something different and something far more terrifying. This movie was based on the book called The Body Snatchers, written by Jack Finney. And yes, there is actually a movie out there, I've actually reviewed it for ScaryMania, called The Body Snatcher, which starred Boris Karloff. Those two movies are completely different from each other, but The Body Snatcher, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I just had to get that distinction out of the way just to avoid any kind of confusion.
Everybody got that?
Similar to The Blob, this movie had pretty much a micro budget of only about $300,000 to $400,000. It'd make a lot of money back. It would make $4 million on that $400,000 budget. However, the budget was so small that originally the studio wanted to cast heavyweights like Anne Bancroft and Vera Miles. However, the money just wasn't there, so they had to go for much smaller actors. But actors like Richard Kiley and Kevin McCarthy, they all did a great job. They really sold the tension well. At a certain point, it basically, this movie is like the domino effect. It starts small, but just over time, little things happen. You pick up on these small nuances, and then just all of a sudden, it's just a drip, drip, drip effect. The most iconic scene of the movie is when the main character, Dr. Hill, and his fiancée are running from the aliens, because pretty much the entire town, this fictional town, has been assimilated by this point, almost except for them. And finally, the fiancé goes to sleep, and the shock on Dr. Hill's face is just priceless. It's such a good little scene. And then Dr. Hill chimes in with the iconic line of, "They're already here! You're next!" And just constantly just losing his mind. It's a great little scene. And really, the movie is a bit of a slow burn, but there's a lot going on, so there's no chance of the movie feeling slow. I was honestly not expecting an optimistic ending for this movie, but it turns out the movie has quite a bit of an optimistic ending. I won't spoil anything. But originally, the ending was supposed to be a little more negative. Let's just say it's more implied that the aliens win at the end. But the studio thought that that would be too negative, and so they scrapped it. Along with the ending changes, there was added flashbacks to kind of add and make changes to the original story to lead into more of that optimistic ending. Maybe it's the softy in me, but I prefer the more optimistic ending. And it honestly more aligns with the original book, as the original book's ending would fast forward a few years afterwards and see the aliens actually leave the Earth because the human resistance was so strong. So the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers definitely gets a recommend for me. It's one of those alien movies that I feel like doesn't get talked about nearly enough. It's honestly at this point a hidden gem, and even though it is so beloved by critics and is in the National Film Registry, definitely check it out if you can. There is a remake which starred Donald Sutherland in the 1970s. Definitely want to check that out. And I also hear there is one starring Daniel Craig, which is not great, but I'll cross that bridge one day when I get there. But the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a high recommend. Check it out if you haven't.